Hello, so this is just a wee video showing my process for making the Subnautica 2 fan trailer. So, starting off with how I came up with the idea for this. I love the way that Subnautica gets across this like thalassophobia feeling. So I wanted to do something around a submarine on a sort of ocean planet. So I came up with just a draft idea of a script. Um, and then I pretty much just jumped straight into modeling, I think. So I think I started off with this submarine. Yeah, so here's my submarine model. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Unfortunately, it's quite. It's got well, it's not loads of detail, but especially like towards the back here, there's a lot of detail that you don't even really see in the video. So, um, if I was to make this again, I wouldn't put so much detail into it here. But then again, I might reuse some asset. I might reuse this at some other point, like this back bit here. You don't really see that. Yeah, I just sort of figured out a rough shape I wanted to go for. I got inspired by, yeah, I got inspired by, I can't remember where I saw this picture, but I saw this picture of the submarine and I just thought it just looked really cool. So that's where the inspiration came from, or at least the front end anyway. The back I just kind of mucked about until I came up with something I liked, really. Yeah, it's pretty much the creation of the submarine. So yeah, this is the spaceship that I was making, so to carry the submarine to the planet. It's not a very good model, to be honest. It's very blocky. Um, a lot of edges are kind of beveled, and this material is just I'm pretty sure it's just a greeble texture I found online. So pretty lazy, but this shot wasn't about this ship, so I didn't put that much effort into it. So this is the first time I've actually done animation using curves instead of keyframes, and for this project, definitely the right choice. Um, if you're doing something with limbs, maybe not quite the right choice, but this was just smooth motions, so getting a line to do that for me is just the right choice. And the star. I spent a long time trying to figure out the right way to do the star. Um, this is my fourth attempt at getting something to cool. And in the end, what I did was I just sampled this shape here. It's just curve. You can't really see it there. There you go. There it is. So I've just sampled the shape, and I've popped that into here. I've also got some random particles coming off it, and then I've set these just to sort of twinkle, I guess. Why is it not showing? Oh, there we go. No. Yeah, there you go. These are the star rays. I disabled them in this version because I sort of rendered them in a different layer. So this is also the first time I've done something in different layers. And the reason was the compositing kind of got a bit convoluted. This is the So this was the compositing setup. Um, it's just stitching everything together, but it was so that I could put, let's say I wasn't happy with the way that the star looked, I could change like the hue here. Okay, so I've got an example here. So let's say I wasn't happy with the way the sun looked. I could change the hue a bit of the saturation. I want it more saturated. Just do it there, and so it's easier to do little changes in post because it takes a while to render. So I just mucked about with the exposure. Yeah, I was trying to muck about with exposure, trying to imitate the way that if you take a camera outside, immediately everything's just bright and then it kind of dims as the camera auto adjusts the exposure to the bright outside light. Not sure if I quite got it, but it's the first time I did it. Practice makes perfect. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's a glare, some stuff. There's nothing too complicated here. However, I did I did kind of two composites because the lens flares. I got these lens flares from this online. I got these free lens flares online, and they took a while to composite. Okay, so yeah, here I've rendered or sort of composited on the lens flare, which just works off illumination. So when you're exporting, so first of all, I had to export it as a TIFF because that records brightness values above one. So if you've got a really, really bright object that's blown out, like the stars, it's like white. Um, you save that, the TIFF saves that, keeps it. Um, so yeah, so as you can see, it was 2 minutes just for one frame, just to composite. So this is longer than like the rendering. I think the rendering is about a minute per frame. Um, so I'm glad I did it separately. It just saved so much time. Um, yeah, I'm gonna still muck about with try some different workflows for Lancers. I looked at like making my own because generally I prefer to like make my own things, but it looked quite complicated, and this was kind of supposed to be a 1 week project. It turned into 3 weeks because that's the way it goes. So I'm glad I just used this one. It's just one someone else has made, so I've just downloaded the blend file and just taken over their notes. Their notes are ridiculously complicated. Yeah, like this is the node tree for the so it's pretty big, and I thought to myself, this is something I would like to do. I'll learn how to do it at least at some point on my own, just maybe not on this project because I do want to just get it done. Anyway, so I think that's the compositing side of it. Okay, so this is scene two, or yeah, scene two, I guess, shot two, um, of the spaceship flying down, dropping off submarine, and flying away. And this one came together pretty nicely. This one didn't also require nearly as much compositing as the other one. Scene one was generally very heavy in compositing, although I'll show some tricks I did later on with this. Um, so yeah, got a basic particle system to try and do like a contrail effect. Again, I'm not sure if it 100% worked. This is something I found from a tutorial online. I think in the future I'm going to try some different techniques to get some contrails. I'm not sure if they're great. Um, but again, I'm using curves to animate, and especially in this, godsend. I did do still a little of keyframe animation because I found that if this aircraft just follows this curve, it doesn't really look like it doesn't look right. Because what happens is the plane tilts and then it starts moving up. It doesn't really move out and tilt up at the same time, especially for an extreme maneuver like this. So I had to keyframe in it tilting up a bit just before it gave up, just to give it a bit more natural movement, and then fiddled out with this arc until I got it right. Um, yes, the ocean. So the ocean is not very well done in this. Um, it was using Blender's ocean modifier, which is really good. It's super well done. And for some reason, I think it's performance issues. Instead of making one big tile, I decided to make lots of smaller tiles. Um, which is you can actually see. So here in the video, you can actually see along this line. This is the tiling between the two different oceans, which I noticed, but I thought it's not that noticeable, so I let it go. Um, I think sometimes with these things, you've got to think if you try and fix every single mistake, you're just never going to get done. So pick your losses. Um, but yeah, aside from that, I did spend a good while trying to figure out spray. I was trying to get like it's a really nice spray done because you can use from these ocean modifiers foam and spray, and you can use this data use a geometry node system, which I feel I made, but I never ended up using in the end. No, I don't know where the examples went, but all that the spray and foam particles give you, or info gives you, is the spray. Um, and again, I kind of ran into limitations with computation, which is my fault. I definitely could have made this a lot less computationally intensive. So next time I go about this, I'm gonna definitely. I think I did make some good decisions to help reduce computation, but there's still some places still foam. So the foam and spray never actually made the final video, I think. Nah, which is a bit of a shame, but oh well. Yeah, and the last thing is this splash of the submarine hitting the water. So the splash was a really tricky one. Um, at first, I mucked about with doing some fluid simulation, which I have done in the past, but I know especially when you get to high velocity, high pressure um, behaviors, that fluid simulations can fall apart a little bit. I'm not all that skilled in it, so it's a bit outside my zone. So I had to get quite creative with a way to get around it. And my thought was, I'll take it from a real source, you know? So this is the other side of the compositing for this video, for scene 2. So I have this video of, quite simply, um, a free fall lifeboat entering the water. So I found this online, and this was about the right angle. This is the shot that's probably the closest angle, and it was also fairly good quality. Like you can see, there's not all that much around here, so it should make an easy-ish mask. Saying that, I did still have some problems masking this. So this is step one. I don't know what's going on there, to be honest. Just some luma keying, and there's some color correction. Because again, this isn't one of these fun things. It's a bit of a mistake, but it doesn't seem to make much of a. You don't notice it too much. Is that the color of the splash is completely different from the color of the sea. But when I watched it, when I showed it to the people, nobody really picked up on it. So it was one of these things I was like, you know what? That's okay. We'll let that slide. Um, but yeah, that saved me. This was definitely a good move to try and composite this, and it worked really well. And then scene 3. So the biggest challenge of this scene was trying to get the volume and the lighting right. I struggled with trying to get the right because I wanted the volume of the density of the volume being the water. I wanted it to be the same density between this shot and this next shot here. So I wanted this bulb of how well did it look, how well did the light from the um, submarine scatter, um, what was the colour of the thing. So I tried tinting the ocean, but sometimes it gives really weird results. So if you tint it in a certain way, this one was looking green at one point while the rest of the sea was looking blue. I don't know, volumes are a bit tricky sometimes, but got there. Some basic particle systems for some bubbles. And again, more curves for animating. It's just, for this kind of thing, it's perfect. It's easy. Ocean modifier above. Again. I'm forgetting the underwater feel. I've used a HDRI actually. This HDRI to give it like a sort of grey moody view from above. And actually, so I've actually surrounded the whole thing in a big semicircle so that you can't see past. You know, once you look far enough, you can't see past. Because without this, and you don't see it so much here, but without it, it was looking worse. In the future, though, instead of making a big volume, I definitely should have just in world views. If I go, if I go here, instead of using a well, I suppose it still would have made it tricky because I can't use a HDRI and a volume at the same time. So it would have been a bit difficult, but that's one way I could have just gone about it, is just put in that. I just put in a volume node here to the world. Why is it not working? Oh, it's an object. Yeah, so the option is to just put in a volume for the whole world. But then you do get the HDRI, so it's a bit of a tricky one. Maybe I should make this really low. No. Anyway, the method I went for worked. And then this final shot here is really simple. The submarine is staying in the same place. The particle emitter is just throwing particles in the face, and the density of this is just increasing. That's it. So I've keyframed this. So at the start, it's pretty well lit, and then it just gets darker and darker. Easy as. And then for the last little bit, when you can only see the light, then I do actually turn down the brightness of the light. But this is just simulating it going deeper and deeper. You know, as something gets deeper, there's less light attached. So I just made it more dense. Simple as. Um, Onto the sound effects.
No life on this planet, right?
So yeah, so sound effects, pretty much everything needs sound effects. As soon as you add sound effects to something and music, it really brings it to life. So first off, simple sci-fi typing, sound for text, and there's a nice little thwop sound. I can't remember what that was. Oh, this is just an effect I found online, I think. Yeah, and I sped it up a bit to work with it. And again, this throughput work is an asset I found. A lot of these are just
Okay.
assets I found. Aircraft sounds. So this was a mixture of. This one was kind of tricky in a way. So you've got a bunch of different types of noise. You've got the aircraft whooshing, you've got the engine sounds, you've got the sort of roaring of the wind, and you've got all the waves crashing. And they kind of make a bit of a mess of sound. They all kind of sound kind of similar. Um, so it was just trying to get them to play ball with each other. So for the aircraft sound, for example, I just pitched down a little bit, more heavy sound. All of these effects do the aircraft. Generally, I've just made quieter and added some reverb. Just a little bit of reverb to make it sound like it's further away. Maybe a little bit of muffle, so a little bit of EQ, take out some high end. Yeah, and the splash sound. Let me just follow it. It's actually really funny. It's just a splash sound effect. That's all it is. Here's the original. Yeah, so that's it. Just like a kid jumping into a pool. But all I've done is I've slowed down the footage, and then that's decreased the pitch as well. Put some reverb on it, and yeah, that's it. That's how it makes it sound like it's a bigger object than it is. Again, you're kind of cheating. You're using something from something not even really related and just editing it a little bit. Same with the splash to make it sort of seem like it's from the same. It's not perfect, but it is quick. Which with this sort of project, I could spend years if I wanted to do this, or I could spend a few weeks and sacrifice a little bit of quality. It's worth the loss in quality for how much quicker it is. You can hear a little bit of the rain at the start here, which sort of fades out. And this is the same rain that I've actually used in the previous scene. But to make it sound like it's got that muffled underwater sound, it's simple as you just put a high pass filter on it. Sorry, a low pass filter. So any sound that's above a certain frequency just gets cut off. And this is not just for underwater, this is for all sorts of things. There's a radio in the next room. Just put a low pass on it. If there's something muffled sound generally means low pass. And then you just fiddle about with where that low pass is, and there you have it. Yep. And I've got the voice acting. And then here towards the end, I have this underwater rumble. And I've got some of the music, just a little bit of music left, and I sort of fade all of that out to try and make that last line a bit more dramatic. try and get that sense of aloneness across by just making it completely silent, eerily silent.
Okay, yeah, so the music. So it took me 3 attempts to get the music. The first one was not very good. Using labs. It's in Bumblebee, and it just did not sound right, to be honest. Yeah. Not very good. Not really at all. My second sort of attempt was a bit better. This is using this choir plugin called Subnautica Orchestra Choir. Better, but not quite there. And then sort of my third attempt, kind of combining the two but in their own kind of ways. So this choir, I made it just a lot better. So it's a woman's choir. Let's give it that strange spacey sound I put in Valhalla Supermassive. It's this reverb plugin that just adds tons of delay, tons of warp feedback. You get really, really big spacey sounds. So it's great for just, it's really good for just being creative with, being funky with. I love it. And then this KH phaser. So when it comes to making these cool sounds, as well as a KH ensemble. So when it comes to making these cool sounds, I love just starting with something like this, just a choir, and just adding plugins till I just find something I like. Just get really creative and wacky with it, do all sorts of things, and eventually you sort of come across just naturally some sort of idea eventually, after enough sort of trial and error. I do find that music is more difficult to make. When making CGI, you've got a very clear vision, or you can have a very clear vision of what you want to do, but trying to make something that necessarily sounds good, that's harder to get. Maybe that's just for me, but so this wasn't even in it. And then this other part is this synth from Vital. It's just a plugin called Random Amp Growl. So if I bypass this is what it sounds like. So it's nothing fancy really. But then I've added in some modulation, and now it sounds like this. And then it's just 2 different chords just repeating. And it's the same chord with the choir and the synth. They're both doing the same notes. The synth's got some more bassier notes. But yeah, just stick them together and then you have it. So glad that I did decide to give it another crack for music, because my first attempt was just kind of awful. And they didn't have any music, and it just did not, the vibe just was not there at all. Finally, dialogue. So I've got my girlfriend Alicia reading out some lines.
Okay, ready for drop.
So initially I was sort of inspired by this. This is an amazing episode from Secret Level, and the female voice is sort of a voice inside his head, but it's got such a nice, like, I don't know, richness to it. I can't describe it.
Ground. You were remade in a lab like this. The technique is supposed to be lost.
What are we doing? There's no target.
I believe we are looking at the target.
The enemy cores.
So I tried to sort of recreate that with some effects, but inevitably the more you tinker around with something, the worse it sounds like. Well, it depends on the application, because I know I just said it can do. With something like this, with the vocals, generally the more I touch it, the worse it gets. So I did a little bit of EQing, Actually, no, yeah, I did. A little bit of compression, a little bit of reverb as well. What was the last thing? A little bit of saturation here. But honestly, I just tried not to. After a while, sort of, the more you fiddle with it, the worse and worse it gets. I just stop. Just know when to quit. And then Josh, who's my friend Josh, wrote out, did the other voice lines.
Confirmed, good for launch.
So if I do him raw, this is the same situation of muck about until you're trying to get what you get. I did a little searching online and they said a high pass and low pass filter, which is definitely the right call. So
Confirmed, good for launch. Don't spend any more time than you need to.
so that's it. And then we put in, what did I put in first? I put in ensemble. It was a bit of a weird choice actually. I wouldn't do that again.
Confirmed, good for launch. Don't spend any more
Gives it
time.
a slightly more robotic feel. The TDR Nova, so again this is a really good EQ. Again, another low pass and high pass, because walkie-talkies only deliver frequency within this range, which makes sense because it's less information, and this is really the sort of area you get the most speech expression out of, I guess.
Confirmed, good for launch. Don't spend any more time than you need
And
to.
then I'd put in just a distortion as well, just a little bit.
Confirmed, good for launch.
And then finally a bit crush, which again I think I went a bit far on this because I think this kind of started making a bit unintelligible.
Confirmed, good for launch. Don't spend any more time than you need to.
But yeah, it works. It works. Put in some radio interference as well because it wasn't quite sounding right. It's pretty subtle, but I think that adds a little bit. And then finally, after showing people the first version of this, they said they didn't realise he was talking through radio, so I just added these little sounds
Confirmed, good for
just
launch.
to sort of make it more obvious.
Confirmed, good for
He's
launch.
talking through radio.
Don't spend any more time than you need to.
There you go. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. I'll show a clip of the first version and then the differences I made for the second version, or the final version. I made like 5 different versions, I think. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed.
Okay, ready for drop.
Confirmed, good for launch.
Okay, ready for drop.
Confirmed, good for launch. Don't spend any more time than you need to. Don't spend any more time than you need to.
No life on this planet, right?
No, but all the same, I don't have a great feeling about this place. How deep was that wreckage estimated at again?
About 4,700 meters. Apparently that's shallow for this